Oh, we had a family wedding.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
we
so
were.
we played.
Yeah. I heard him on the microphone.
Okay.
Call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first up is our budget hearing. And making the presentation tonight will be Mr. Jason Smith.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Bush, for the introduction, and welcome to our guests. It's time of year where we present the annual budget up for vote by our public next Tuesday. I recognize Scott Lazansky for the efforts this current budget season, along with Molly, Tricia, and the entire board for their support as well. In terms of some general comments, we have up there our mission and a vision, which we live by each and every day. The goal of the budget should be to make sure that the priorities of the mission and the vision are then reflected in the budget, and that's what we've sought to accomplish here. Also, it's important that the budget, as Scott has mentioned before, is aligned to our strategic plan. We've seen this every single month. We've had presentations. I can sit here and tell you that the budget priorities reflect all four pillars of this plan. Safe and orderly school environment, collaborative culture, clear and accessible curriculum, and effective teaching. Those priorities are represented in the budget. So I'd like to talk, I did this last year, talk about the teeter-totter analogy. Think back to when we were kids. We would go at the school park, sit on the teeter-totter. The goal, if you sit on the teeter-totter the proper way, is to have both sides balance out, right? So you don't want to have one side lopsided more than the other. We want to make sure that the budget reflects our community needs, reflects what our community is willing and able to support, and of course, enhances or preserves academics, athletics, extracurriculars. All those pieces are important in the balance here. So that's the same analogy I gave last year with respect to the teeter-totter analogy. A balanced budget reflecting what we can support, what the public can support. And that's what we've also sought to accomplish here. Budget guidelines and principles we've established to make sure we obviously meet all mandates, health, safety, and legal requirements. All our contractual obligations need to be fulfilled, and most important, support our programs for our students that will help us realize the mission and vision that we outlined here, and help us realize the four pillars of the plan. Just some highlights. This year we've opened Robert Morris, picture there, proud to have that open, a fully functional pre-K and preschool. Our CEP program, community eligibility. All of our students are entitled to lunch at no charge. We have a very robust grant funding, mental health, community schools, our preschool grant. The program at Robert Morris are funded through a preschool grant. Recently received the 21st Century Schools grant as well. And as we speak, John Bruch and John Rebo are on the capital project team. We're actively working on the next set of projects to be shared later on this summer. Some demographics there, our student enrollment, grades pre-K through 12 is listed there. 72 in grades pre-K, 340 in grades K through 1, 482, 2 through 4, 592 middle school, 641 in the high school, and then we have our average class sizes. Again, I mentioned the CEP program, 100% free meals through June 30th, 2026. Our student demographics. Here are some staffing numbers as of April 2023. Now I want to talk about some students. Here are some student highlights, activities that we are currently engaged in that Molly's office oversees. We have rich and rigorous programs in math and ELA. We have students engaged in various activities. We have science. We partner with Monroe BOCES for the science kits. Wit and Wisdom is a program we're piloting at Jackson and at John Kennedy. Haggerty works with the kids on phonics, etc. And then here, I want you to see our high school graduation rates. We did take a slight dip from 21 to 22, but we're at or above the state average in high school graduation rates. What we're really proud of, I'm not going to go through this line by line, but this compares our 3 through 8 results last year, all the way through, and we are comparing ourselves to like-sized schools. That may not be in the paper copy. Okay, so yeah. This shows the percentage of students getting a 3 or a 4. The bottom line here is that most categories were first, second, or third against our small city comparables. Okay, this is the same presentation that Dr. Corey gave back in December. So we want to make sure we are competitive with our small city allies. And this is for ELA, first, second, or third. And just last year, 21-22, we were second amongst small cities. Again, this next slide is not in your packet. I added that this morning. The next one shows math. Similar results. Here is Batavia. We're ranked 4th, 2nd, and 3rd in various categories. Last year, we were first in math, grades 3 through 8 of small cities. We generally don't compare ourselves to the schools around our region because we're so much larger than Elba and Alexander. So we do compare against other small cities. Those names have been blocked out, but they are available on the state ed website. So we're very proud of that. We're also proud of the programs that we have that are not mandated. I want you to think for a second of school like ours, without a band, without a musical, without a football team, without kindergarten, without school resource officers, without security aides, without social workers, without laptops. We have a girls' flag football team that Julia, I know, is a proud member of. They're undefeated, last time I checked, right? So we have all these programs in place for our students that are not mandated, that are fully supported by the proposed budget here. It goes on, advanced placement. We have a fishing club at the high school. We're doing quite well. I followed my announcement. We have a fishing club at the high school. Summer enrichment, security aides. I mentioned the SROs, librarians. We sent our students to BOCES across the street. They have great success there. So again, these are pieces that are non-mandated, but are very healthy and wise to have in the school. So the proposed budget is listed there. The proposed budget is just under $59 million. Represents an increase of 7.6% from last year. The tax levy is proposed at 1.016 or $200,000. Compared to our neighbors, we're just under 1.21% as the average in our region. And more stark is the consumer price index is all the way up to 8%, and we're looking at a 1% levy increase there for next year's budget. So the tax cap, we've heard about the tax cap for the last 10 years. It's commonly referred to as a 2% tax cap. That's a myth. It's seldom ever 2%. It's a complicated formula that we have to go through. The bottom line is our tax cap, if we wanted to, we could go as high, the board could approve a budget as high as 8.42% levy increase. Again, we're at 1.02. So that's revenue that the district is not receiving, and we seek to balance it out with our expenses. So the proposed tax levy for next year is 1.02%, and I just showed you there. And again, the comparison here is 8.42 is the tax cap. Anything above that would require a supermajority. We are well below that for next year. Another way you can look at this, tax levy increase, we have it broken down by 3-year average, 10-year average, 15-year average, 18-year average. Here's the average levy increase. Over 3 years, 0.67, over 10 years, 0.98, over 15, 1.1, and over 18, 1.03. Again, the left column is lower than the right column. That's what you want to see. The left column is lower than the CPI, Consumer Price Index. Here's a summary for next year. The first column or the first row represents the budget. This is the current budget we're operating under now, $54 million. The budget next year proposed is $58 million. The increase there is 7.64%. That's fact number one. Fact number two, the levy. This current year, a levy was adopted at $19 million, opposed to what the 19, just under $20 million, a $200,000 increase. Again, 1.02% is the recommended levy. Revenue, money that we bring in from state aid and taxes and other sources, that's representing an increase of just over 13% revenue increase. On the fund balance side, the appropriated money that has a set purpose. This helps us balance the budget. This is part of the revenue side. $2.7 million in 22-23. At the advice of our auditors and recommendation, we have reduced that amount, which is a positive thing, even though it's a negative. We want to rely less on that to make sure the budget is more efficient. So that has been reduced by about just under 10%. And the appropriated reserves, our savings accounts, if you will, looking to increase that by 7.5% to balance the budget. Scott, anything to add on that?
No.
This is something we could talk about. Capital outlay project. By state law, we're allowed to expend in the general budget, the general fund budget, $100,000 to fix or update our sites. The project that has been chosen for next year, partially through the buildings and grounds, is the stage at the middle school is in need of some repair. For every dollar we spend, we get 92 cents back from the state. I don't want to call it free money, but it's not really free money, but it's money that we can receive back from the state if we follow all the steps. So in the budget, $100,000 has been set aside to renovate and repair the middle school estate, which is still used for concerts. I was at a concert there last week. It's used on a regular basis. It is in need of repair. That has been built into the budget for next year. Again, John and John sit on the building and grounds team, and they've been exposed to some of those conversations. Any questions on that? Revenues. I showed this before. This slide. Down at the bottom. Revenue. This is just showing this a bit more in more detail. State and federal aid represents just over half of our revenue. The rest comes from the tax levy and other local revenue. Fund balance. I showed you the fund balance slide, and other local tax items. So that makes up our revenue. Again, just over half comes from state and federal aid. This is where we're going to spend the money. And what I want people to see here is of that revenue that we have earned, or that we have received, for every dollar we receive, just under 60 cents goes to instruction. That includes things like our teacher salaries, textbooks, principals, the football team, marching band. All those pieces fall under instruction. Even though they're extra curricular, they are still structurally based. So all that is tied under instruction. That's where we want to see the dollars being spent. As a taxpayer and as a school board member, for every dollar we receive, just under 60 cents is allocated towards instruction. The rest you can see is towards benefits, salaries, debt service. That's essentially our mortgage payment. It essentially is our mortgage payment for past projects. And then you heard me talk about the capital outlay project, $100,000. That is, shown here, it's in 135, $100,000 of the 135 is for the capital outlay. The rest lies in summer school special ed program. And that's where the $100,000 that I talked about, that's where that is shown in the budget under the appropriations. Another way to look at the tax levy, we broke it down into 3-year averages, 5-year averages, all the way up to a 20-year average. We'll see it's been moderate increases over the years. So the tax rate projection, the tax rate is not the same thing as the tax levy. The tax rate and the tax levy are two different concepts. And we're estimating a decrease in the tax rate of 34 cents per thousand. So a home that is assessed at $100,000 will pay about $34 less than what you paid last year. This, of course, is subject to change. And again, we are in full compliance with tax compliance, so I think we can expect the rebate checks in the fall. That's still a thing, right, Scott? Yes. So the impact on the tax rate, these are the factors that affect the tax rate. The assessed values have increased, gives us more funds to draw from. Equalization rates have decreased. This is the best way to look at this, though. As assessments go up, the tax rate goes down. So that's this slide is saying the same thing. I think this slide is easier to understand. Assessments go up, tax rate goes down. So this breaks the city into our 4 municipalities. We have us here, okay, BCSD. We have a Friends at the Roosevelt Library. We have the City of Batavia. We have Genesee County. The local taxpayer responsibility for the BCSD has seen a negative change of about 7%, which is a positive thing for our taxpayers. That's the local taxpayer responsibility over the last 20 years has gone down by just under 8%. Again, trying to be fiscally responsible, keeping programs alive and well for our students. The other piece, this is one of the ballots on the proposition. We're seeking to propose a new capital reserve, up to $10 million. The current reserve is going to be fully funded, and this will allow us to offset the local share of any future projects. It's essentially another savings account that we need voter approval to have, and that will be on the ballot next Tuesday. There are the 4 budget propositions, the budget that I just walked you through, 23-24. Our student ex officio, the concept of having a student member serve on the board is up for re-election next year, and that will be then appointed at the high school. The capital reserve I just talked about, that $10 million is proposition number 3. We have 2 board members, Alice and Benedict and Barton Bowman, who are up for re-election. No opposition, they are the 2 incumbents. And that's, happy to take questions or comments. Is there anybody here? None? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
And I will ask one more time, is there any questions? Is there any public here to be heard for any questions on the budget or anything? If not, we will move on. I would need a motion to close our budget hearing for tonight.
Chaz?
Mr. Cole. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Corinne, a second. Ms. Anderson?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right. Do we have any public to be here? I don't believe we do. All right, next up is me. Good news. All right, Jane Palladino from the high school. On April 14th and 15th, 4 of our high school students participated in the GWMEA All-County Band in Leroy. Congratulations to Liliana Burke, Prudence Favaloro, Ian Harmon, and Caitlin Withrow on their outstanding performance. Also from the high school, Lisa Robinson, I would like to congratulate all the contestants and committee members of Mr. Batavia 2023. We raised $5,133 that is being donated to Volunteers for Animals, Golisano's Children's Hospital, and the Ricky Palermo Foundation. Our 10-year total is now at $37,852. Thank you also to all the staff that helped contribute to make the show a success. From the middle school, Rachel Drenkan. Our Tech Club participated in the GCC Tech Wars. We had students take 1st and 3rd place for the sculptures that they made and entered in the competition.
Tech Wars is all of Genesee County Schools, and this was an awesome accomplishment. Mr. Sutton from John Kennedy. This good news is for the students of John Kennedy. Our 3rd and 4th graders worked so hard on the state test, showed their best effort, and made all of us at JK so proud. Our students were extra gritty these state test days. And then from the district office, Molly Corey. Jessica Carl started in the registration office in January. Parents have shared with school principals that she is very easy to work with and helpful during the registration process. Her behind-the-scenes work with families welcome all in our school system. Thank you, Jessica. And there's more stuff to look at, so please take time to read the rest of the good news. We're going to switch things up a little bit. Our student ex officio, Miss Julia Petrie, has to leave early for practice tonight.
Girls flag football, right?
I got lacrosse.
Oh, lacrosse, you're very busy girl. So Julia, what do you got to tell us?
Well, Ms. Robinson kind of stole my thunder on her note. My first topic was going to be Mr. Batavia. We raised around $5,000. Brendan Burgess was our winner, so half of that profit that we made is going to go to Volunteers for Animals, and then the second half is going to be split into half again, if that makes sense. So half of that will be split into 25. For Cooper and Fabian Vasquez, who was our first tie for second in Mr. Batavia history, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure Ms. Robinson announced that at the competition. So that's going to be split up to Galasano and Ricky Palermo. And then next, I wanted to talk about National Honor Society. We have 52 new students who are being brought into National Honor Society, which is one of the largest inductee classes we've ever had at BHS here. So that's really exciting. And then I was going to talk about Decision Day that we just had for the seniors. Let's reminisce on it. We're almost gone. It was a really great setup though, and we all enjoyed it. And that's something that we would love to see continue, because it was really nice being able to go back through all the buildings and see our teachers and just kind of reflect on the time that we had here at BHS, or Batavia in general. And my final was about our AP exams that are coming up. I know there's only a handful of kids who take them, but our students and our teachers are doing a great job preparing everybody. We're about halfway through, and I've heard nothing but good news. I know personally, like my AP Bio teacher is doing a great job. It's her first year ever doing the class, but our whole class feels very prepared and like we can actually tackle this without having to stress about it or anything.
And it's tomorrow, right?
Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday.
That it?
Yes.
All right. Now, next up is our counseling plan update. Mrs. Sherry Herman.
There we go, technology. All right. Busy year for counselors this year, but well worth it. Each year, I usually come to the board and present how our counseling plan is going throughout the year. Last year when I came, it was like a 2-year update because of COVID. This year, counselors are still compiling data, and so that data won't be available until June for this year. But I wanted to come and just update the board of where we are right now. Right now, counselors have different roles. As we talked about before, the district just received the mental health grant. We have 2 components that counselors usually navigate. It's through ASCA and New York State Counseling Association. ASCA is the American Counseling Association. And we usually get our guidelines through them of kind of how we navigate our counseling services. And the last report we kind of got from them on a state level and through the Counseling Association is that mental health needs in schools are up 52%. And that's why we see so much increased funding. So counselors' roles are definitely changing. We're collaborating more, not only with teachers, but with outside agencies to help us with different things. They're playing definitely a more critical role in social emotional learning. After COVID, we sort of increased it, but I think now we're kind of really seeing the impacts of students returning to school. And so counselors have definitely stepped up to the plate and sort of navigated, whether it's small group counseling large group counseling, individual counseling, meeting with parents more on a regular basis, and definitely expanding our social emotional activities throughout the building. Other council roles, definitely, academic achievement strategies we're working with, expanding different academic interventions throughout our buildings, whether they're enrichment activities, AIS activities for students who may have had that gap in learning during COVID. Definitely now with MTSS new initiatives, we're expanding with counselors more data collection and assessments so that we can get sort of a clear picture of students as far as collecting data on their needs in the school. And as always, counselors are just advocates of kids, just creating equity in the building around their needs and different services. As I mentioned before, ASCA, the American School Counseling Association, there's a framework that we follow. And it's basically based on data-informed decision-making, delivering, services to kids systemically and equitably, including developing the appropriate curriculum, definitely looking at closing achievement and opportunity gaps, and just looking at results as far as achievement, attendance, and how to better look at discipline in our buildings. Over the last year since COVID, I really, ASCA, or the New York State Counseling Association, hasn't really been able to host a lot of meetings around our counseling plans. So what they kind of advise us to do is sort of to like check in and partner with local school districts. So I met with Victor School District and did a site visit and met with their department chair. And we sort of just compared our counseling plans and just looked at best practices. And so we just sort of looked at the importance of having trusted adults in our counseling plan, creating systems that support our counseling plan and attendance, and just recognizing the increased need for collaborations, especially around mental health, creating regular assessments for students, parents, and teachers, just to get feedback of how we're doing, just regular focus groups, just to sort of keep our pulse on student needs and make improvements from there. And just making sure that we have regular communication with leadership team and the board, just as far as around the counseling plan. So I think that's something that's important, just to connect with other schools. The other thing that Victor we sort of talked about is just sort of like, even though the academic skills and the social emotional skills are important for students, just even looking at those soft skills for students around being effective communicators, the importance of just those basic skills of reading, writing, and arithmetic, working collaboratively in team groups, using critical and creative thinking strategies, study skills, technology, and just being overall curious about school. I think just going back to the basics of learning. There we go. Talking and not clicking. So as far as like our social emotional, I'm going to go around here a little bit. These are some of our, and right now we have pre-K through 12 do a lot of these activities as well. We do a lot of student staff spotlights, wellness activities, not just for students, but for staff. There's a lot of holiday theme weeks. We have a kindness club, kindness month. We do student check-in. We have our field days. There's definitely daily affirmations that go up. Our peace circles, red ribbon week. We have a sources of strength activity going on in a lot of our buildings. We have Mix It Up Days, which is like a teaching tolerance initiative where kids mix it up during lunchtime, and they get to sit with a different person and play a game or activity. Because sometimes what we find in the lunchroom, that's a place where people sort of develop cliques, and sometimes they don't want to sort of mesh, but this is something we've initiated at the middle, and I've done it at the high school, whereas kids mix their, like we do 3 Mix It Up Days a year where kids sort of mix it up and sit with other students and play games. We use our bulletin boards in our building to promote SEL activities. There's student incentive programs that we develop, and then we have family nights as well. This here, which was something we just did this year, which was a Christmas shoebox initiative that we did with the Veterans Home, whereas our 5th graders created 25 shoeboxes of kindness, and they filled it with things for the veterans. So that was something that we're finding students really enjoy, those community service projects. Our counseling plan components are made up of a few different pieces. We have our closing of the gap and attendance action plan. Each building has their own closing of the gap. Mostly it's around attendance or either credit recovery in some of our buildings where they look at where the greatest needs in and they focus most of their counseling services on that gap. We have our curriculum action plan, which each counselor does four classroom lessons per year in each building. And we have our small group action plan where those are just a small group of kids that we do. And those groups can range anywhere from an anxiety group to a self-esteem group to also just a social skills group. So those are also in every building. We do a program assessments for counselors where they let me know what's working and what's not working throughout the year. We have PBIS and SEL again. We have our advisory team, and we also have our principal agreement that the counselors meet with the principals each year to go over their counseling plan. We always like to align our counseling plan with district goals every year. So our district goals here, as we mentioned saw before, are about having a safe and orderly school, collaborative culture, clear, accessible curriculum, and having effective teaching practices. So when we look at our counseling plan, we look at goal number one. What are counselors doing in every building to reach that goal? Whether it's around attendance intervention, data meetings to look at attendance, referrals, suspension. We have our new district social workers in every building right now. Currently this year has been very busy looking at our suicide and threat assessment practices. So that's been something heavy on counselors' radar for this year. We're looking at collaborating more with businesses and community mental health agencies, looking at suicide prevention policy updates and trainings, more initiatives around PBIS and SEL. We're definitely looking at alternatives to suspension, gossip and bullying prevention, and just getting, as like I said before, more student, parent, and teacher feedback of how we can continue to improve on the counseling plan. Goal number two, which is to have a more collaborative culture. Counselors are constantly working with community-based agencies and community school departments to build that relationship. We're having parent conferences, doing home visits, linking with BOCES to have post and other businesses for post-secondary opportunities. We're continuing to implement tier-based interventions around MTSS and attendance. And again, with the new social workers, counselors are definitely working in collaboration with them.
Sure, can you just stop for a second and explain in layman's term MTSS for the board?
It is the multi-tier system of support. It used to be formerly RTI. Basically what it is, if there is a student who has a academic or behavioral concern, instead of going right to, let's say, a special education referral, they would go through that process when it's a team that meets with the school psychologist, the school social workers, teachers, myself, and we create tier services into the classroom to help that student. So usually they're either tier 2 services, which could be like extra reading support, extra math support, or they could be tier 3 supports, which would involve more collaborative outside agency support that would help us, which could either be a referral to SPOA or something along those lines.
SPOA?
SPOA is the, I know my is like, oh boy.
Single point of access.
Single point of access, there we go. Single point of access, but that's more of a tier 3 service when they need a more higher level of intervention. Goal 3 is clear and accessible curriculum. Basically, we just continue to research and develop more best practices around our counseling plan, look at college and career counseling services, curriculum action plans help with that. We like to promote culturally relevant teaching models, and we're just looking at how to fine-tune our closing of gap action plan and report more efficiently so that we can see on a regular basis if it's working, if it's not working. Goal 4, the effective teaching practices in the classroom. Our counselors work with teachers to prepare for the next level of life academically and socially. We promote advocacy and equity. We look at the classroom lessons, the social development classroom lessons, and we assist as needed with classroom management. Here is the some of the absentee data that we got, that we've been reviewing in our buildings. And I kind of went over this last year. This is secondary here. This is 9 through 12. And just as I kind of discussed last year, it may be new to some people this year, but basically we're looking, when we look at our closing of the gap action plan, we look at those subgroups who may have higher attendance needs than others. This is elementary, which would be K through 8. Same similar patterns. When the counselors look at this, they're looking at those subgroups who may need more tiered interventions when it comes to absenteeism. Since we have the district social workers, this year counselors are continuing to work with them to develop these tier intervention plans. Tier 1 interventions are aimed at just encouraging better attendance for students and creating a message that you need to be here, we want you here, and messaging to parents how important attendance is. Tier 2 intervention is designed to remove barriers for parents who may not be able to make it or are great at risk of chronic absenteeism. And Tier 3 is involving not just schools but outside agencies who can help us get kids into school. Any questions? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we have our superintendent's report. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, John. A couple of items. This week we are celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week. There's been Facebook posts done already. Each school has various recognition events planned. Each staff member received a journal from the district consistent with our goals on reading and literacy, so that has happened as we speak. Speaking of reading, last week we had a very well-attended family reading night at Jackson. It was covered in local media. I wanted to compliment Maria and Jessica and their staff on a great job for that. Corey the Dribbler was there from the Harlem Globetrotters. I have a new friend. He was fantastic. I saw him perform twice and really pleased to have him here. Thursday, our drama club students will be going to the Auditorium Theater in Rochester for the Stars of Tomorrow competition. It's something new. We have restarted here in Batavia for the show they did this past spring on Les Mis. Looking forward to that. I'll be going to that with the students. Next week we have our annual Math and Movement Night at John Kennedy. That's Wednesday, right? Probably next Wednesday is Math and Movement Night. As Julia said, we celebrated Decision Day last Friday with the seniors. They took a walk through all of our schools. I was at one of the walks at John Kennedy. Lots of happy faces both on our seniors and our staff members and our students. You probably have seen the Facebook post, and very well received. So I want to recognize all of our schools and our seniors for making that happen. We continue to stay in concert season. JK Chorus had a concert, JK Band is this week, the orchestra, and then the high school and middle school have their concerts upcoming. Julie also mentioned the Honor Society event that's going on here tomorrow night, recognizing students. I'll be participating in that. And lastly, on a more serious note, I want to thank the Batavia Police Department, local law enforcement, our families, our students and staff. We had a difficult week, last week or so with the lockout that happened here in the county. So just want to thank the BPD for the excellent response time, city staff, law enforcement, sheriff, state troopers, families, staff, and students were extremely cooperative and respectful in the process. Just want to extend my thanks to all of them, making that a scary situation less stressful. We did receive an email from several parents thanking us for the job we did. So I just want to pass it on to the staff here and the staff that's watching and listening as well. So, any questions? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, next up is G, consent grouping. This would be, I would need a motion to approve the consent agenda, items H through P.
So moved.
Mr. Rigo, can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Roll, is there any discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And at this time, I'd like to just step away for a second and just recognize Mr. Chad Bliss. who was just approved to be our next Director of Facilities, and also Mr. Brian Sun, who I'm sure all of us know as the principal at JK. He has been approved to be our next Director of Educational Technology. And gentlemen, please stand up and
Welcome.
well, thank you.
Please say a few words if you want. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I will. So,
Nothing planned, but
I told you ahead of time. I just thought I'd say.
no, honestly, this is a great opportunity that I'd like to thank Mr. Smith, Ms. Fink, and Dr. Corey for the opportunity to meet with the interview team and the board for agreeing to approve this position. Originally, I think our district is in a great position to really take some strides back into the technological world, and I look forward to leading that. So thank you for the opportunity.
Welcome, Brian. Chad, feel free.
What he said. No, thanks to everybody with the hiring process. It was really great, and I'm very excited to become an Batavia. Everybody's just as excited to have it. So look forward to getting started.
Just as a comment, I'm also very enthused about both Brian and Chad joining us as well. Brian has demonstrated real enthusiasm for this new assignment. He's looking forward to it. He has prior experience doing this type of job at Hilton, or this is a much larger role he's going to have here. It's one of his passions. He's going to be missing John Kennedy, I'm sure, and I know. I want to welcome Brian. Also, Chad comes to us currently as a director of level 3 in Eden, a smaller district than ours, but he has a current role there. He's experienced with capital projects. He's worked with campus construction before, and really showed himself positively through the whole process. So welcome to Brian in the new role. Welcome Chad, and Chad's going to start in mid-June, 16th, right? And then Brian's going to officially going to start on July 1st. So we'll notify the staff soon, and then information will be sent out to our parents shortly. So welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next up is Q, old business. This is a resolution and contract amendments with campus construction management. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mr. Riegel, could I have a second? Mr. Roll, is there any discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
New business. We will need a motion on this, but it's for the first reading and waiver of second reading for policy number 5411, procurement of goods and services. Could I have a motion, please? Ms. Bowman, could I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Riegel, any discussion?
I just want to thank Barb and Chaz for their work on this past week. Thank you both.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, next up is discussion and or other reports from any board members that may have something they want to bring up or discuss. Anybody got anything? No? No?
I could tell you this. Okay,
You
they
have something.
I do have something, okay. The Center for Advancing Healthy Communities, which is located in Louisiana, had teams set up for promoting movability and walkability for those who are not especially physically active. The committees required a public health official, a city planner, an elected official, who ended up being me, and a transportation person from the city. They also had 2 spots for extra people, so the Office for the Aging and the Youth Bureau were also represented. It was really interesting, it was really energizing, I enjoyed it. We identified strengths in the city, we identified barriers in the city for extra movability, for added walking, things like that, and we identified ways to deal with those barriers. We developed an action plan, and we are being given $10,000 from the Center for Advancing Healthy Communities for the action plan that we came up with. The plan goes first to the Office for the Aging crosswalks in conjunction with the city. But then the City of Batavia School District is going to also come in to the plan with a walking school bus. The teams were from Genesee County, that was the 4 of us, Schuyler County, Lynn City, Iowa, and Nibley City, Utah. So it was really interesting, it was really diverse. The walking school bus is another whole. I'm really excited about it, but basically what it boils down to is that you have a starting spot. You develop ahead of time with the parents and the teachers, and bus drivers, etc. You have a starting spot where the adults and the students leave. And then we go to the next walking school bus stop, and we pick up more kids. And we pick up more kids, and we pick up more kids. And we end up at, I'm thinking Jackson School would probably be the primary place because they're younger, they're a little more, interested in walking and walking with adults. I think that would be a great place to start. I'm excited about that. We have other areas though too, walking clubs, things like that I would like to work more closely with Mike Bromley on. So I think that this overall was an amazing project. I was really glad to be part of it and glad that I could encourage and advocate for the city school district. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Anybody got anything else? All right. Next up will be a call for us to go into executive session. We will not return to public session. The call for executive session will be to discuss matters relating to medical, financial, credit, or employment history, or a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation, and also discussions relating to proposed, pending, or current litigation. Could I have a motion, please? Mr. Roll, could I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Bowman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okey dokey.
Thanks, everyone.